All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now get into previewing tonight's game between the Lions and the 49ers, a rematch of the NFC Championship game from last year. And like I said going into the break, it's a different game. The 49ers will not be in the playoffs this year, and the Lions, they will be in the playoffs, and they could have home field advantage. Or they could be the 5 seed. When it comes to the 49ers, it's been a tough year for them. A lot of injuries and, blowing a lot of leads late. And that's kind of led them to the season that they've had. Last week, they played the Dolphins, and, Dolphins ended up winning that game. It's just, it hasn't been their year, and there's a lot of uncertainty, I guess, going into this offseason. Could this be it for some players that have been with this team for a while now? What are they going to do with Brock Purdy and his contract? Are they going to give him a big contract? Like I said, there's a lot of uncertainties with them, and I think this is a team, if they run it back next year with the same crew, I think they'd be a playoff team if they could stay healthy. Not having Christian McCaffrey was tough. Jordan Mason did a nice job early on in the season, but then he got hurt as well. If you can get a healthy Christian McCaffrey back next year, a healthy Brandon Ayuk back next year, you make some tweaks with the defense. I think Dre Greenlaw is going to be a free agent. I don't know if they're going to bring him back just because of, him coming off of the injury, the Achilles injury. But, you still got Nick Bosa. You still got Fred Warner on that side of the ball. Charvarius Ward and Ufanga. They do have a lot of good players on this team. It's just been one of those years. It's like what happened, from the 2019 season to the 2020 season. They made it to the Super Bowl. They lost to the Chiefs. And then the following year, they missed the playoffs because of a lot of injuries. You had George Kittle miss some games this year. Brock Purdy missed a game this year. Deebo Samuel missed a game this year. Juwan Jennings. Pretty much all their star players were out at least once this year. And that's kind of led to the season that they've had. And, when the schedule first came out and you saw these two teams matched up against each other in Week 17, you thought, oh, that could come down to home field advantage. But that's not the case. The Lions, they need this game. Well, it would be nice to win it because, if they lose, then, they're behind the Vikings. But if they beat the Vikings, they're back in the 1 seed. They'll just have the same record. But I think it's because of the divisional record. The Lions will then finish ahead of the Vikings, even if they lost tonight. The 49ers have nothing to lose in this game. They could play spoiler. I think with them being at home, I don't think they're going to lay down and roll over. They're going to play the Lions tough tonight. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Lions will win this game. The Lions are the better team here, although they're dealing with their fair share of injuries as well. But I think the Lions, they want to beat the 49ers, avenge that NFC Championship game loss to them last season. So, I think this will be a decent game tonight, but I think the Lions should win. Last year, of course, Lions, they had a golden opportunity to win the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. They were up against the 49ers. Looked like that they were going to win, but Dan Campbell was overly aggressive, and you also had Brandon Ayuk making that unbelievable catch that set up a touchdown. Then you had Jahmyr Gibbs fumbling in that game. This was the picture I used here for this segment is the one where I don't know what the 49ers, Chase Young on the play, he's not on the team anymore, but they just let Jahmyr Gibbs walk into the end zone on that play. Lions ground game was really working in that championship game. Now, there's going to be no David Montgomery here, but you got Jahmyr Gibbs, so, I expect him to be heavily involved. Look, the Lions offense is going to do what it's done all year. They're going to move the ball on this Niners defense. And it's going to be up to the Niners offense to try to keep up. And I do think that they'll keep themselves in it, like I said, but I just think right now where we are, the current versions of these two teams, the Lions are just the better team here. And maybe it is closer a little bit, but I expect the Lions to win this game. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting what happens with the Niners. And the roster's getting older. But I still think that if they run it back with the same team, that they're going to be good next year. I do believe that. It's just one of those years. And for the Lions, they got their sights set higher. This is just another game that is a stepping stone towards their ultimate goal. And they've been the best team in football pretty much all year. And, I have them going to the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl prediction has got back on the tracks after some time, because I think the Lions are going to get healthier, and the Chiefs now have started to round into form. So that Super Bowl prediction still looks good at the moment. But we'll see. I did say early on in this show that the NFC playoffs are going to be really good. You got a lot of good teams in the mix. So, it's not a guarantee that the Lions will make it out of the NFC, but, if they got home field advantage, it's going to be tough for whoever has to go there to play them. But listen, I'm going to stick with it. I know for some teams, I did not predict them well. The Commanders, the Broncos, those are possible playoff teams. Didn't really see that coming. The Chargers are right now a playoff team. I mean, I had them winning 9 games. I did not think they were going to make the playoffs this year. I didn't have them in it, but they're in. So they are a step ahead of what I thought. But if I can get that Super Bowl prediction, I'll be happy, because at least that's one of the few things that I got right with this year. Yeah, I mean, back to this game though. Kind of looking at where both teams kind of stand in terms of the league rankings. Weather should be nice, so not going to be a factor here. Lions, top 10 in offensive categories. I mean, they're second in passing yards per game, 6th in rushing yards per game, 1st in points per game. Niners are 9th in passing yards per game, 11th in rushing yards per game, and 14th in points per game. And then defensively, Niners are still 2nd against the pass, although they've had some games where they've gotten torched. Lions defense is 28th. Lions are good against the run, 4th against the run, and 7th in points allowed. Niners are 16th against the run and 19th in points allowed. So, yeah, I mean, the team has taken a step back. Brock Purdy's been okay this year. I mean, 17 touchdowns to 10 picks. That's not nearly as good of a year as he had last year when he was an MVP candidate. It's just been a disappointing year. They're 6-9. I would not have expected that going into the season. But, they have one. I think they have one divisional win this year. Yeah, because they beat the Seahawks once. They do play the Cardinals next week, but they lost to the Rams twice. They lost to the Seahawks, and they lost to the Cardinals. They only have one divisional win. And that's something that I'm not used to seeing. They usually do good against their divisional opponents. But this year, that was not the case. And if they do win on... Well, actually, no. If they win on If they win tonight and they win next week, I mean, you end up finishing in third. I mean, I think you still finish in third because the Cardinals are 7-9. 49ers lose, they're going to be 6-10. And I think if both teams win, then I guess the Niners would be ahead of them. I don't know. Actually, yeah, I think they would finish ahead of them. So, but yeah, I mean, Niners finishing at 7-10 or even 6-11. What if they lose these last two games? Would not have seen that coming. But again, injuries had a lot to do with it, and just they weren't able to close out games. I mean, the Seahawks game, Geno Smith had that game-winning touchdown. You had Kyler Murray and the Cardinals pulling off a late comeback against them. It's just, yeah, no, they struggled this year, and I kept thinking, like, once they started getting healthier, they got McCaffrey back, you got Pearsall back. I was like, okay, I mean, you don't have Brandon Ayuk, but you could still, save your season here. But then McCaffrey got hurt again, and it's just, Nick Bosa was in and out of the lineup. He's been banged up. Fred Warner's also been banged up. Some of these guys are playing through injuries too. It's just, it's been a tough year for them, and yeah. We'll see what happens, beyond this year. If they end up moving off of some guys, how does the Brock Purdy contract situation play out? There's a lot for the 49ers to consider, but I do think they're a team that's going to bounce back next year. I do believe that. There's too much talent on this team, and if they run it back with the same crew, I think they'll be, if they could stay healthy, they'll be back in the same spot, similar to where they've been in previous years. But we'll see. But yeah, I got the Lions winning tonight. I think the spread right now is 3.5. I think the Lions win, like 30-23, something like that. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored tonight. But we'll see. Let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. Let me know in the comments. And that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Friday. So no show tomorrow through Thursday, but we'll be back on Friday. We'll make picks for the upcoming games over the weekend. And then following week, next week, back to business as usual, Monday through Friday, same time. So make sure to check out all the other shows as well throughout the day. And until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day and enjoy your new year, and I will talk to you guys on Friday in 2025. Take care.